now let's talk about the flip side of it. And it's not really the flip side. I don't know this is negative, but I'm more questionable. And this is their Snowflake's big competitor, Databricks, has announced a partnership with SAP. And this isn't really about Databricks. I think for Databricks, it's actually a very smart move, but for SAP, it's sort of a question mark. So they're calling it the SAP Business Data Cloud. And you're probably, I'll let you, I'll tee it up and then you can dive into it because you
Sure.
probably know this better than I do. But from what I remember of what they've announced, it sounds like they're basically taking what had been three different products. SAP has this problem with like a lot of the big companies with all these different sort of borderline competing, borderline adjacent products. They're bringing them all together and then adding in what looks like more or less off the shelf Databricks, maybe tuned a little bit to the SAP data ecosystem, to try to create an analytics environment or consolidated that to me is sort of an answer to Salesforce's use of MuleSoft as a sort of data in the middle sort of thing. So I think it's the right move. My concern is it feels like it's just a wrapper, and that they aren't really in fact doing anything new. They're just trying to have create something new out of thin air a little bit. So I don't what was your take on this announcement?
Yeah. So the tricky thing about SAP, as anybody who's ever had to administrate SAP knows, is that the data schema is very clunky and enormous, often very customized, and it's difficult to get the exact information you're getting with simply staying within the SAP ecosystem. As much as SAP wants to help with that, obviously SAP has all the tools from a business intelligence and data management perspective, but let's be honest, they're not always the best. So one thing that's been happening significantly is that SAP customers are increasingly pouring their data into Snowflake to be able to better understand what is happening within their data, because obviously Snowflake, the easiest place to manage a data warehouse and then to be able to extract data and do analysis. And SAP is noticing this and figuring this hodgepodge of technologies we have to try to support that is not working quite as well. So they notice, who does Snowflake always compete against? Databricks. So you look at Databricks SQL, what Databricks has been doing from a data warehouse perspective, what Databricks has in terms of its catalog, and being able to wrap that all together. And they say, here's a toolkit that we can use to make it easier for SAP customers to be able to access both their data and then, more importantly, the metadata to be able to create context to be able to take next steps. So now they're going to market together jointly. It's not that SAP is new to data or doesn't have data tools, but they know that Databricks is going to honestly maintain these tools and keep them modern and performant and flexible with third parties to an extent that SAP may not be able to do. And of course, this is kind of a problem because SAP did have prior partners in a bunch of these areas. And of course, SAP is trying to play up that they still want to work with Calibra, but if they're using the Databricks catalog, that obviously is competitive to that partnership.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I guess where I'm going with that. Look, I think in the end, there's nothing but upside here. If you're an SAP customer, this has been an
Mm-hmm.
ongoing challenge. This ideally gives you another avenue and a way to simplify it. I wish this would, and maybe it will be. Maybe this is the first step on an evolution to something that's a more comprehensive approach. But I'm not entirely convinced of that. But in either case, I think it's absolutely wonderful for Databricks. It gives Databricks access to the entire SAP user base. In
Mm-hmm.
a co-selling environment. And as the analyst over Constellation pointed out, it does not include Databricks' more advanced products. So it now creates an upsell channel across all of it. So there's upside for years
Mm-hmm.
on for this on Databricks. So I think for Databricks it's a no-brainer. And like I said, I think it's still good for SAP and SAP's customers. I think it's just probably not as big of a deal as the marketing team probably wants you to think. But
Yes, and this is something that Databricks has been good at for throughout the years. They have an Azure Databricks product, they have an AWS Databricks product, and one of the things I do think they do that's really smart is that when they commit to a product, they do to a new product partnership, they literally treat that as a separate product and separate go to market. They give it the focus of a product that they have to manage going forward, rather than simply putting some paper together and saying, hey, we're going to sell this together. So I'm actually pretty interested in seeing what Databricks ends up doing to support the SAP product. And SAP might have seen that as a strategic advantage as well, having another team of people who are focused on basically modernizing SAP.
Yeah, I mean, I think and we have a lot of ground to cover, so we should move on. But I think the big challenge here, if I look at the difference in strategy, I mentioned MuleSoft and Salesforce, is I think that I mean, I don't think SAP could have acquired Databricks, but I think they probably would have been better served by acquiring a data company and actually fully embedding it and truly transforming it versus this. So I hear what you're saying about Databricks' approach, but at the end of the day, Databricks is still a separate company, and that's going to always limit their extensibility. So like I said, I look at this more of a marketing thing than I do anything else, and that doesn't make it bad, but it just makes it a little bit of fluff.